Hi everyone, it's Katie Crysdale here from Lakeview Aquatic Consultants. Welcome back to our weekly Aquatic Industry Insider. If you're new to this series, in this video I'm going to be talking about the top few articles that I posted on the Lakeview Aquatic Consultants Facebook page. And when I say top few articles, it's not necessarily the articles or posts that people most engaged with. This is sort of my snapshot of the previous week in terms of articles that were really interesting or really significant in the pool industry. So in this video, I'm going to be covering articles that were shared from August 14th to 20th, 2022. I have quite a few articles this week, but I think they're all connected, so let's get started. The first article, or I should say post, that I reshared on the Facebook page this week that was really significant to me in terms of something that I, having worked in the pool industry for nearly 20 years at this point, had never heard of happening before, is this terrible situation coming out of the Bronx, New York. So this article is pretty much the picture speaks for itself in understanding exactly what happened. We are resharing an article from ny1.com entitled "One Woman Killed, Another Critically Hurt by Fallen Tree in the Bronx." This was posted on August 16th of 2022. So the picture speaks for itself. A very large tree collapsed on people swimming in the pool, and it resulted in one woman dying. The context for this is I have operated outdoor swimming pools, outdoor spray parks, and splash pads. I was responsible for overseeing the mowing of those areas, the garbage collection in those areas, the road sweeping, the gravel sweeping. And I never ever thought about a single one of the trees in the pool areas where I worked. And so I think this is significant for any aquatic professional to now be thinking about the trees in the area surrounding your aquatic facility. Now, I am not an arborist. I would not know what a rotting tree looks like or a damaged tree. And this is maybe not something we need to do every year, but I definitely think that there are some learnings we can take from this, whereby maybe we look at our annual startup checklists, our end of season checklists. Do the trees need to be inspected every 3 to 4 years to make sure that they are structurally sound? There are no hazards of limbs falling off. This is a terrible, terrible story. Second article for this week is also from the greater New York City area. It was not a great week this week for things in the pool industry. This was actually a tweet online from New York City Buildings, like the building authority for the greater city of New York. And they say the following: New York, we know it's hot, we get it. There has been a substantial heat wave on the east coast of North America for the last couple of weeks. So really high temperatures in the 30s in Celsius, over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. But please don't build a rooftop swimming pool without first getting permits and hiring professionals to do the job properly. This 480 square foot pool just found in Williamsburg wasn't built to code and had to be removed. If you look at the thread, the commenters who are piling on are kind of missing the point. A lot of people are hassling the New York City Building Authority for making it too difficult to get permits and for perhaps overstating build a pool when this is an inflatable pool. The point of this post, though, is significant. You cannot put tons of water on top of a structure that is not built to sustain that weight and expect it to remain standing and be safe. So further down in the thread, you can see the calculations that they use to come up with the weight of the swimming pool. 480 square feet multiplied by a depth of 4 feet that the water level was at. 1 cubic foot of water weighs approximately 63 pounds. So the total weight of this swimming pool was approximately 60 tons. When pools are built on top of a condo building, whether it's part of the design or a renovation, that is significant engineering that looks at the load, including the disbursement of that weight around a certain surface area. So to see the photos of this pool may just look to the average person like the city building authority or the firemen who found this pool are the fun police. But the reality is this building was not intended or built with the plan to have that amount of water on the roof. It is an older building. There is a daycare allegedly operating out of the ground floor. And what one person probably thought of as just a fun way to cool off, something to do, could have had tragic consequences because there's no way of knowing what would have happened with that type of collapse. When we think about the Surfside condo collapse out of Florida in 2021, one of the conversations has been, what role did the swimming pool play in the collapse of that building? You probably saw photos of that building collapsing. It was a terrible, terrible tragedy. It also reminded me of the Oklahoma City bombing in the late 90s. If you've seen photos of that, the McVeigh terrorist attack. But essentially, with the pool in Florida, it was located in the parkade, the lower level of the building. And there has been some question and analysis regarding the structural failure of the pool, particularly the waterproofing, sending water leaking into the parkade over many years, the acceleration of that breakdown with the salty ocean air on the Florida coast. How did that contribute to the pool collapsing into the parkade? And then the structural beams holding up the core of that condo building falling down. So all of this to just say, an inflatable pool in your backyard, no problem. But when it comes to any great height or any sort of structure, we can never assume a floor or a ceiling is rated to a certain weight. I encountered this with a number of construction projects I was involved with, capital construction projects, where the engineers would come in and look at the floor, rating to hold scissor lifts, to hold large equipment. For example, if you're replacing the air handling unit on the roof of a building, you do have to look at the density of the weight. How much is it spread out? Can the roof support it? Does the roof need to be reinforced? Do you need to select multiple air handling units and disperse them over 4 corners of the roof instead of in one location? All of those are considerations that the average person is not making. And so unfortunately, please do not put pools on your roof. So the next article I want to mention briefly is about Wasaga Beach. The reason I want to mention this drowning fatality is because Wasaga Beach is an area of Ontario that has a lot of tourism and a lot of people leaving the city on evenings and weekends to enjoy the outdoor lake life. And Wasaga Beach had lifeguards for a number of years, and then a number of years ago, the community pulled back on staffing lifeguards. And I don't know all of the details, but the reason I bring this article up is because persistently for the last few years that Wasaga Beach has not had lifeguards. Almost every year that we've had the Lakeview Aquatic Consultants Facebook page, which is at least 5 years at this point, there has been a Wasaga Beach drowning fatality. And I can't think of any other area in Canada that persists in having these types of injuries and fatalities where there is not a larger conversation about having lifeguards, posting rescue equipment, posting signage to educate out-of-town visitors. This is one of the few areas, if any, that I can think of where there are consistently issues every summer, every season, and it needs to be discussed each time it happens because it does justify bringing back lifeguards. Really, really frustrating as a lifeguard and a lifeguard instructor trainer to see an area that has such heavy usage that doesn't have the right layers of protection. The fourth article I want to mention this week is actually an article that I wrote several years ago for Pool Pro magazine. This came up for me this week in speaking with a client at a larger municipality who called regarding glass in their swimming pool. So they're in a difficult position. It's the middle of August. There's lots of tourism, lots of out-of-town visitors. It's really, really hot. Residents want to be swimming outside. And so there was obviously questions from management when the pool operator said, hey, we need to close the pool. There's a glass bottle that has broken in the pool. Sometimes you'll get these probing questions from management who is anticipating the public complaints, who is anticipating the concerns that will be raised. Was it completely necessary to drain the pool after broken glass? And when this client reached out, I said, absolutely, it is justifiable to drain your pool of broken glass. It is a pain. It is a huge cost to refill it, especially for a shorter season if your pools are only open another few weeks until Labor Day. But based on my experience with broken glass, which you can read about in the Pool Pro article, it was a large light bulb about this big that shattered into a 50-meter pool. It is absolutely necessary to drain the pool. And we also articulate in this article other steps that you can take in terms of vacuuming and backwashing and different areas of the basin to look for that broken glass. The velocity at which the water is pushing broken glass through the pool or through pipes should be of significant concern to anybody who is concerned about risk management at their facility and the potential liability of somebody getting hurt if that glass is not adequately removed. I'll also link to a video that we filmed last summer with a colleague in southern Alberta who had glass break at her pool. It came about not as a broken bottle, but because of cheap glass goggles that the family had purchased at Walmart. And it is scuba style goggles, full face goggles, but they were not made with tempered glass. The way a scuba diver purchases very expensive tempered glass goggles that are suitable to be used at great pressure in great depths of water. These are your average $15, $20 goggles, and these do break under certain conditions, and it has resulted in glass in the pool in a number of pools that I'm aware of here in Alberta. But the point of the discussion with my colleague was that there was another neighboring pool near our pool that did not drain their pool, did not do anything about the glass. And I thought this was particularly significant given that they were recently renovated and they have membrane or liners inside the pool. And what does that do to their warranty if the glass shreds the liner or somebody gets hurt and then drags the glass across the bottom of the pool? Hopefully it's not something that ever happens at your facility, but it is important to have a plan in place, or at least the idea of what you would do if there is glass in the pool, especially in the middle of the season where the timeliness by which you can drain and refill is important to your revenue and your community usage. Last couple articles here that I want to mention. The first is we mentioned a number of Swimply articles on our Facebook page this week. Swimply, if you're not familiar, is an app where you can rent local pools by the hour, but instead of renting commercial pools that are regulated, this follows the Airbnb or Uber model where homeowners are renting out their backyard or their personal pools for revenue. This is a topic that is not going anywhere anytime soon. We will continue to follow Swimply as it gains traction in the industry. Whether you love it or you hate it, whether you would use it, whether you wouldn't, as somebody who is really connected to the operations of pools, I see a lot of red flags. I have a lot of concerns in terms of customer safety and liability. I don't think it's the case that nobody should rent their backyard pool to their friends, to their family, potentially even for revenue. But I do think we need to look at the regulatory piece a little bit more in terms of the hazards that are posed to bathers if they use a pool without somebody who's certified operating it, if the chemicals are not maintained to a safe level, if anti-entrapment protocols are not in place, if there are not safe environmental conditions like the pool deck, like the equipment, the diving board. All of those things do require some oversight that the lay person, the homeowner may not be aware of. And so it's going to take, I believe, a number of incidences to happen in order for people to take these things seriously. A few weeks ago in this Aquatic Industry Insider, we did talk about the Swimply death, the first one that's publicly documented. It was a child who drowned at a birthday party that took place at a pool rental in Teaneck, New Jersey. I'll link to that episode in the video here. But the articles I shared this week are continuing that conversation about what Swimply is, what's happening, what they're doing. The first article was from CNN.com. It was posted on August 16th, 2022. It's entitled, "It's like Airbnb, but for renting your pool to strangers." things don't always go as planned. If you've missed the boat on Swimply and they seem to have come from nowhere, this is a really good background article in which the founders are interviewed. They talk about their business model. They talk about some of the things that they're aware of, have considered. They talk about hiring lobbyists to help them with different jurisdictions that don't want to allow pool rentals or residential rentals. And that kind of connects to the second article that we also shared this week, which pertains to Palm Springs not allowing residential pool rentals, not specifically against Swimply, but against the use of residential homes for commercial purposes. That second article is from desertsun.com, and it's entitled Palm Springs Says Pool Timeshare Firm Swimply is Illegal. The company says it's not going away. This was posted on August 4th of 2022. So I think the timeshare piece is a really interesting way to think about zoning, and Palm Springs, California, having laws in place, bylaws in place that says, a property cannot be used for those short-term rentals. It will be interesting to watch how this pans out. There were a number of instances across the U.S. that we talked about in a newsletter a few months ago. I'll link to that in the description box below. I believe it was Wisconsin that was interested in regulating pool rentals, but then quickly backed down with opposition from Swimply and from residents. And then there is another district in New Jersey that has looked at banning residential pool rentals, but there really hasn't been a lot of traction yet on this issue, the way there was traction on taxis, for example, with Uber and Lyft. Some cities saying that Uber and Lyft could not operate because they did not meet licensing requirements in terms of driver training and vehicle safety. And then we're seeing the same thing with Airbnb or Vrbo in terms of some jurisdictions saying that properties cannot be rented, or there are laws in place against short-term rentals because of the disruption to residents or a particular region. So all of this to say is Swimply is something that we're going to keep seeing on our Facebook page. I'm sure we will keep discussing in these aquatic industry insider videos. It's unavoidable at this point. It's sort of the hot topic, and especially in the summer when a lot of facilities have staff shortages that prevent them from being open as much as they would like. It does serve a purpose. It is a product that people want. The premium access that having your own personal pool for an hour or two, I can definitely understand the draw. Or I can definitely understand why there is demand, whether it's for a birthday party or for a photo shoot or for a personal family barbecue, get together. There are reasons that would be, of interest to people who don't know any better about the risks that exist. Last two articles I want to mention. The first connects back to those staffing shortages. So businessinsider.com posted an article. It's entitled, I hire lifeguards for YMCA pools in Florida. We're so short-staffed, we've started recruiting patrons and closed down pools on the hottest days of the year. This was posted on August 16th, 2022. There's nothing new in this article if you already work in the industry and you're well aware of the staffing shortages and the challenges that we've had this summer and the last 2 years with regards to pool lockdowns and then staff not in the pipeline to become certified as lifeguards and swim instructors. This article is a really great summary of how we got here and what that looks like in terms of the decisions that pool managers are making to make the best of the season and have the pool open when it can be. So this is a great article to share with your family and friends who may not work in the pool industry because it really contextualizes it's not just you or one area or one pool complaining about a specific issue. It's an industry-wide challenge. Over the last couple weeks in previous editions of the Aquatic Industry Insider, we've shared some different articles where there have been seniors or people later in life who've decided to come back to lifeguarding to help out their communities. And I think that's going to be a growing area of staffing going forward. But this is a really, really good article to concisely share the problems we are currently experiencing for those of you who might have people who just don't get it. They think that you are, why aren't you taking the day off? Or why are you working late or going in early. Those challenges are universal right now across North America in terms of commercial pools. And I thought this was a really great synopsis to articulate the issue beyond some of the news articles we've seen that are really not detailed enough to get to the root cause of why. Last thing I want to mention is that on Friday, August 19th, we did a bit of a throwback post because it's already been 3 years. Can't believe it. 3 years since our Pool Chasers podcast episodes came out. So in 2019, I went down to Arizona and I recorded 2 different podcast episodes. The first one is episode 59. We'll link to it on YouTube. You can also listen to Pool Chasers, the podcast, wherever you normally get your podcasts. Our episode is entitled What You Need to Know When Taking on Commercial Pools with Katie Crysdale of Lakeview Aquatic Consultants. So my main goal with this episode was to talk about the difference between commercial swimming pools and residential pool service. So a lot of the audience of the Pool Chasers podcast is directly connected to, pool service, going, from pool to pool on a residential route, doing construction and repair and balance and service. And so connecting the commercial pool industry, which is hotels, condo buildings, municipalities, swim schools, day salons, cruise ships, resorts. They're also pools, but the scale and the scope of the work is quite different. And that was something I was really able to chat about with Tyler Rasmussen, one of the hosts of the Pool Chasers podcast. We had a really great conversation. It is quite long, but good one to chip away at as you have some time. And then we also have a second episode that you can search out wherever you listen to podcasts, or we'll link to the recording on YouTube. And it talks about the Certified Pool Operator Program, formerly the National Swimming Pool Foundation, now offered by the Pool and Hot Tub Alliance. Lakeview Aquatic Consultants, my company, is a certified pool operator provider for the Pool and Hot Tub Alliance. We teach Zoom and in-person classes across Canada, as well as we have the occasional US and international student. I am a CPO instructor, and I also sit on the CPO advisory committee for the Pool and Hot Tub Alliance. We do strategic planning for the pool operator program, the textbook, for all of the aspects of the pool operator program. And then I'm also now on the CPO instructor cadre, so I'm involved every year with training new CPO instructors at the CPO Instructor School in October at the World Aquatic Health Conference. So this year that will be in Houston, Texas, and we have about 40 candidates registered to become CPO instructors. And then every April on Zoom, we do the virtual training, which is a great option for international students. We had someone last year from Malaysia. We've had people from across Canada and the US. So very involved with CPO, and I was very happy to be able to talk to Tyler about the value that CPO training can bring to anybody in the industry, whether they're boots on the ground, feet on the pool deck, in service, maintenance, repair, operations, or whether you're more in a management capacity, lifeguard capacity. There is so much to know about pools, and it really advantages you to have that background when you're doing what you do in your day-to-day work in the pool industry. So that's it from me this week. Thanks so much for checking out this episode of the Aquatic Industry Insider. All the articles will be linked in the description box down below, or you can click back to the Lakeview Aquatic Consultants Facebook page. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up so that helps the algorithm to know exactly what content to show you. If you have any comments or thoughts, feel free to share them down below, and I look forward to catching up with you next week for all the news that crossed my eyes and crossed my desk.